Okay, here we go. Stand by. 3, 2, 1, action.
Assume nothing.
In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth.
Question everything.
God wouldn't steer you wrong.
I find it extremely hard to imagine.
Rash, bald-faced blasphemy.
Open your eyes.
What they do is stick their fingers in their ear and say la la la.
أشهد أن محمدا
I put my faith in God above. Thank you, Jesus. The truth shall set you free.
Engage your senses.
The fastest growing group of people in the country has been measured as being those who have no belief or who are atheists.
Overcome your fear.
It is quite all right to be an atheist.
Challenge the opposition.
You don't have to be apologetic or quiet about it.
Embrace the truth.
You see religion on 100 fronts losing the argument.
And start thinking. This is the Thinking Atheist worldwide.
It's funny, when you are an atheist, you start groping for metaphors to explain to other people, if you live in a religious community, how difficult it is to come out. And it always ends up, you say it just like that. Well, I came out as an atheist. And so the immediate parallel is for people who live a gay lifestyle who came out to their families. And I made that correlation when a friend of my own was going through much of the same thing. He related to me what it was like. He'd been living a certain way. He'd been hiding it from his family, not because he's angry with his family, not because they, there was any real animosity, but it was a religious family. They would be heartbroken. And one day he came out. It had been years, I think, and quietly he just decided that he'd had enough of living the lie. He'd had enough of being duplicitous. He just wanted to just be honest, to just say the words, to just be understood, to just be true to himself. And so he came out. And, of course, the repercussions were significant. And, of course, there was heartbreak and tears and questions and anger, and there was division at first. And, the family kind of freaked out, as most families do, at least here in our culture, right here in the buckle of the Bible Belt here in America. And over time, that began to change, and there began to become some acceptance, and there was some healing, and there was some dialogue. And before you know it, there was some reconciliation. And that's what I want to talk about today. I really, really am interested in people's stories about how they told their family. And if you don't live in a religious home or in a religious culture, some of this is going to sound foreign to you. Some of this you're just going to think, what's the big deal? A lot of people I know who email me from Europe and other parts of the world say, it's not a big deal. Not a big deal. Come on. It's just, everybody's atheist where we're from. You're weird if you're Christian or religious or Catholic or what have you. But in many parts of the world, including mine, it is the opposite. If you say you're an atheist, you are radioactive. Nobody wants to touch you with a 10-foot pole. Nobody wants to talk to you. Nobody knows really what to do with you. And so people who have come out to their families and said, look, I don't believe in God, and they made that brave step, have stories to tell that I think can help other people. And they can help us remind us that we're not alone, that everybody's going through the same thing. And I have had people email me stories, and I would love to hear your phone calls. If you want to call in, the call-in number is at the top of the chat screen there at the show screen. Please call. And, we take calls from all over the world. It's funny, last time we did this, we were getting calls from everywhere. Austin, Texas, got California, got Canada, a couple from Sweden. We've had people from all over the world who called in because everybody can relate. It's a human experience. Everybody has a story. It's funny. My own experience was a difficult one. My parents were and are devoutly religious, and so imagine they spent a lifetime, training up their child in the way that he should go. And at the age of 39 comes and says, look, life's too short. I just can't take it anymore. And I was wondering myself how to breach it at the time. How do I tell these people? How do I tell my family? I sort of took my time at first. I started asking questions. You do that? You don't say, I think this is crap. What you do is you say, look, I've got some questions and concerns. about the Bible. Can I ask those? And so you put your dissension in question form, hoping that they will begin to see how ridiculous it is as well. Look, when Noah boarded the ark and, you know, all the animals walked from the Antarctic to the desert, and there was an, you know, and Jesus, and God drowned all the babies, you know, and or if you look at any other story and you ask them as far as a question, what I got back was either other questions or the reassurance that, well, you just have to have faith. Come on, you have to look through the eyes of Jesus. Pray, I actually heard this phrase, pray and ask God to solve the mystery for you. And the whole time I'm looking at the Bible, you know, I've got the papers in front of me, and I'm going, hang on a second. Well, this is the divinely inspired, perfect Word of God. This is supposed to solve the mystery for me. Why is God speaking in parables? Why is God confusing rather than being clear? And after a while, I finally got sick of asking the questions. I started making statements. Look, this doesn't make sense. Science doesn't reconcile with this. My own common sense, my own experience doesn't reconcile with this. And even if I believe the Bible to be true, after actually reading the Bible, I can't adhere to the God of the Old Testament, especially an immoral, jealous, petty, absolutely atrocious character. And the idea that he would be my moral high ground just boggles the mind. Just absolutely boggles the mind. And the fallout, again, was pretty significant. And so anyway, I don't want to hear your stories. I don't want this show to be about me. I want it to be really about the stories we hear from our people from all over the place. It's funny, we don't have a lot of dialogue. A lot of us live in religious circles, and we don't have a group where we can get together and just say, hey, man, how's it going? You know, what was your experience like? I want to be able to relate. You know, I want to be able to know that I'm not the only one. And so this is sort of that lobby where we can all hang out and communicate together. I got a letter in my email box from Terry. Terry said, I came out on Facebook. That's pretty brave. Terry said, all my friends were supportive, and the ones that weren't got their asses handed to them via reason and logic by my cousin, who is an atheist. Terry says she didn't lose anyone, but she gained some cool Christians and atheists in the process, to each their own. And Terry, I appreciate that. It's not really the norm. Normally you get preached at, not related to. Micah wrote a letter and said, when I remind my family members I'm an atheist, they always respond with, oh, that's so sad. Or they just say, oh, in a sad manner. And I don't know why it's so sad. I mean, I think I've tried to explain to them that it's incredibly empowering, and I'm happier than I've ever been in the past when I was trying to force myself to believe in something. They seem to think they seem to think I'm incredibly depressed because I don't believe in a God, that I'm just hiding it. But I'm not depressed. I feel magnificent, that I have a responsibility for my own actions in life. But, of course, there were the same family members who believe in creationism because, and I quote, you will never convince me that I came from a monkey, and to refuse to hear the truth about evolution would burst their bubble. And isn't that the difference? I was talking to Dan Barker a few weeks ago in another podcast, and he said, you know, if someone came to me and they had absolute proof that there was a God, I want to hear it. I mean, his mind is open. I want to hear that. I want to know. If I'm wrong about being an atheist, geez, I want to know that, and I want to know it now. I want to live truthfully. And when you talk to somebody who believes in God and you say, I have some evidence to give you, they automatically shut down. The doors close and they say, well, I don't, I don't really care what you say. It doesn't make any difference. You know, science is flawed. You know, I'm not going to, my senses are not limited. God's not limited by how I reason. My mind is too small. I'm just an insect. I'll never understand the wonderful ways of Jehovah. You know, immediately they've decided, I don't want to hear the evidence. I don't care. I just don't care. You know, I believe what I believe. I know what I know. It makes me happy, gives me comfort. I'm going to live my life, bada bing, bada bop, and that's about it. And that's the futility that we encounter whenever we're having these conversations. It's so frustrating. Switchboard wide open. I've got a full chat room and nobody on my switchboard. Come on, give me a call and talk to me about what your experience was like when you revealed to your loved ones that you were an atheist. Or if you haven't revealed to your loved ones yet, and you're going through that struggle, and you don't mind sharing it, I would love to talk to you. I want to find out where you're at, what's going on in your mind, what's going on in your heart, some of the challenges and opportunities in front of you. And you know, this is the chance for all of us to sort of come together and figure this out and clear the air and decide that we are going to live truthfully, that we are absolutely atheists, and we are because we came to reasonably and logically, just the way it is. I had a letter from Eric. It said, as a young boy, I was raised as a Catholic. Parents made me do the altar boy thing in religion school. And the whole time I was in school, I would ask questions to the point the school asked my parents to relocate. That hurt. To another school. Parents continued to make me go to Sunday school for my confirmation. Every chance I got, I would ask questions that didn't make sense, to the point they ignored me till I got my confirmation. I'd ask my parents loads of questions about religion. I would tell them maybe religion was like Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. Maybe one day they did the same with religion and forgot to tell us it was all made up to control people into behaving better. And I always get bothered when some horrible accident would happen and one person survived and people would say, thank God for saving him. But I would follow, why are you thanking God for saving that person? Wouldn't he be the reason the event happened in the first place? When I met my wife, I didn't tell her I was an atheist, mainly because her grandmother was a pastor to a local church. I told my wife, and she was cool with it, and she let her family know about me, and they were okay with it. I would get the occasional, God bless you, or you still have time to repent crap. I would hold back my beliefs around others, afraid they would think less of me for being an atheist. But when I found the website, thethinkingatheist.com, oh, I see where you're going. Thanks for the slug, man. When I found the website, thethinkingatheist.com, I had the stuff to prove how dumb religion is. Well, actually, I can't take credit for a lot that's on that website. You know, in fact, this is a good point to make. There are two things about the Thinking Atheist that I want to make clear on. First of all, I take a lot of heat for the name, the Thinking Atheist. And I'll tell you why I chose it. Not because I'm a great thinker. That's not the point. Some people say thinking atheist is redundant. Well, I don't think it's redundant at all. Never assume anybody is thinking, atheist or otherwise. Other people razz me because they say it's an oxymoron. Thinking atheist. You hear that a lot from believers. They call up and they laugh. They don't actually refute the arguments. They just mock the name. Thinking atheist. But the reason I chose the name, honestly, is because only in my life when I started thinking and reasoning and asking the tough questions, did the doors of opportunity to living truthfully open for me. And I just thought we should all be thinking atheists. You know, we should always be reasoning, always have those doors open, always be testing and examining and retesting and figuring out and scrutinizing and twisting and just knowing what is true. And retesting every few weeks, you know. And so the website came about because I had done so much learning on my own about the Bible when I sort of said goodbye to my faith, that I took a lot of what I had learned and I put that up on the Refuting the Bible section. And a lot of that is done by greater minds than me. I know it's not a perfect website, but if you are looking for a really different look into the Bible than you may have heard in Sunday school, go to thethinkingatheist.com, and you'll see a whole section dedicated to refuting the Bible, and you'll see two sections. One talks about the atrocities in the Bible, the stuff they never taught us in Sunday school about what a bloodthirsty bastard God is. And the second part is the contradictions, the stuff that simply doesn't make sense, the stuff you go, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense at all. These authors contradict, and sometimes the author contradicts himself. Sometimes we don't know who the author is. I mean, you read everything about the construction of Solomon's temple. It makes no sense when you see it literally. You look at the story of the birth of Jesus. Geez, the authors of the Bible can't even agree on how it happened during the birth of Jesus. It's unbelievable. And so maybe that'll help you as a resource, but I can't take all the credit. I certainly did research from greater minds than my own. I'm going to go to Michigan and talk to Bria. Bria, are you with me here on The Thinking Atheist? Good morning.
I'm here, your number one groupie. How are you?
Are you the Bria that was in my video, the In Your Words 2 video?
That's right.
Hang on a second. Let me sing your praises. There's a little religious term. Whenever Bria sent a video in, she's this tough, funny, sweet little black lady, and she looks right at the camera, and she's like, would I do it again? Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I've had people send me emails going, I love this woman, because, you know, it wasn't an easy road for you. Tell me your story.
Well, I was raised a Jehovah's Witness. I was baptized into the Jehovah's Witness organization at 17 under duress. I was studying with a regular pioneer, and I felt she knew what was best for me because she was seasoned. And I got baptized at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles, California, and at 18 I said, to hell with this, and I left. And I felt that I had to have some kind of spiritual guidance. I was very depressed due to the conditioning that I experienced being a Jehovah's Witness. I had thoughts of suicide because I felt I disappointed Jehovah. And I was an unofficial atheist. And I say that because I had no knowledge about the Bible, but I said I'm not going to believe in God. And I ended up going to work at AT&T about 10, 15 years later, and a woman she ministered Christ to me. And I fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. She made it sound like lobster, surf and turf. It was everything I wanted to hear. And I climbed up the ladder quickly in the Pentecostal Christian church. I went from layman to, I was an intercessor, prayer warrior. I was a prophetess. I ministered in shelters, and something kind of clicked when the pastor had said, can you imagine being in heaven singing holy, 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 holy for infinity? And I looked at my son and I said, hell no. No. Everybody knows after 2 weeks I get bored. So to say holy, holy, holy for an eternity, that was it. I started going to the Bible, pouring through the Bible, discrepancies. Why would God use a lying spirit to tell King Ahab that he was going to die, he was going to win this war, and he ended up dying? You know, I didn't understand why he hardened Pharaoh's heart 6 times. If you had to harden his heart, then that means that Pharaoh was probably moved and was going to let your people go, and nobody could answer my questions when they told me I was being used by the devil. I was a Jezebel, and I was stripped. I was sat down. I couldn't pray. I couldn't give a quote-unquote word, and then I left the church. Didn't leave God, but as I began reading the Bible and thinking about how I was a child, praying for starving kids in Africa, and now those people are probably starving adults or dead, or they had starving children, and I just came to the conclusion prayer is a coping mechanism. It doesn't work, but it can make you feel better. To make you think you've done your job, and then you just put it on the shelf and you just hope for the best. And so I was updating, I was expressing, it's so true, I was expressing my frustration with religion via my religious views. Like, forget religion. No, I'm not a Christian. No way to religion. And then I just finally said, I am an atheist. And when I clicked that atheist, oh my God. I got I still love you anyway. I was befriended. My mom inboxed me and said, have you lost your damn mind? And I said, Mom, it's the complete opposite. I found my mind, and I will not swallow what has been shoved down my throat ever again.
Now,
and I told my children. Okay.
Let me stop you there. Hang on. We're going to get to your church. Talk to me about your parents. Do you have a relationship with your parents now?
Let me tell you what's so funny. My mom was disfellowshipped from Jehovah's Witness. My dad was disfellowshipped. My dad has been reinstated. He's a ministerial servant, which is like the equivalent of a deacon. No matter when I came out the lesbian closet, when I was a stripper, everything I've done that was like a black sheep act, my dad has been behind me 100%. And he's a Jehovah's Witness.
Your dad was supportive of you being a lesbian and a stripper?
Whatever I've done, my dad, before I make a decision, I've thought about it like 100,000 times. People see the end result of my decision, but they don't know the stress and the inner conflict I went through to make that decision. But my dad knows I don't make rash decisions. It's just the decision is so extreme to everybody else. It seems rash to them.
You guys get along? You guys connect? You guys relate? I mean, are you guys together now?
Yeah, we never were apart. My dad, I'm in Michigan, he's in California. We don't talk about religion. My mother is complete. My mother's complete opposite. My mother has a love for me, but we've always had a tumultuous relationship. But what was so funny is she's not religious. That's why I couldn't understand why she was upset. She doesn't pray. She doesn't do anything. And so when I said I was an atheist, that's why I couldn't understand her reaction. I said, you don't even pray. That doesn't even make sense. But she's been conditioned.
There's something about the word atheist puts people on the defensive. They get real weird about it. And so you told your church, and then what happened?
I've been befriended. Like I said, I've been called Satan. I've been called Jezebel. And I said, well, I can't be Satan because I don't believe in him either. And then when I said, according to the Bible, what was Satan's offense? You're serving a God who killed a man because he caught the door of the Ark of the Covenant, but Satan didn't kill anybody. What was his crime? That you guys are to hate him and you're scared of him. Don't let something on the cash register come up to $6.66. You become scared and you throw an extra pack of gum on a conveyor belt. What did Satan do that was so horrific that you're to hate him, but you love this arrogant, narcissistic God? And I can't understand it.
Religious faith that I never understood. For example, if you have someone who spends his whole life loving people, raising his kids, caring for his spouse, giving to the poor, working a hard job, producing, living the best possible life, and dying without a belief in God, he goes to hell. If Jeffrey Dahmer accepts Jesus at the last moment in prison, he gets to go to heaven. And in my mind, I'm like, this is a just, righteous God. This is his divine plan. To me, it makes absolutely no sense.
It makes absolutely no sense. And what's even worse is, when I have this conversation, I'm like, don't you understand that the Bible was used by slave owners to justify enslaving your ancestors, my ancestors? I've been told by black people that was a lie. And then in the black church community, so that you're able to swallow slavery better in the Bible, it has gone from slave to master to slave equals the employee and the master equals boss. And I said, are you effing kidding me? Because the Bible strictly outlines laborers in the vineyard, laborers for Christ. So if the Bible talks about workers and calls them laborers, how can you justify changing the meaning of slave to meaning employee and boss? I said, so you mean to tell me my ancestors? I said, well, it seems to me that the slave owners owe hell of a overtime pay, insurance. You mean to tell me my ancestors could have walked off the fields and out the kitchens anytime they want? Now, this is with a black person. So when I said, I want you to go and tip. I mean, this is the brainwashing. So I said, I want you to go and tell your grandmother, your great-grandmother, that they weren't really slaves, but they were employees. And please document the reaction. Please.
The temper of your voice and your attitude and your humor, just awesome. And that's why I'm glad you called in. You've got a you're just fun to listen to. I just sit back and let you do all the work. Bria, you're a gutsy lady, and I like your style. I like the fact that you didn't just accept it, but you went through and you decided, look, I'm going to find out what is true, and then I'm going to live it no matter how difficult it has been. And when you say, would I do it all over again, hell yeah. Tell me what that means.
That means if I had to go through being called a Satanist, a Satan worshiper, if I have to experience my family not talking to me, because when I left the church, before I even said I was an atheist, when I left church, my uncle, it's been 3 years, he has not spoken to me. If that is all part of my journey to be this woman at 42 who was strong enough to tell her children, question everything, even me. If I have to go through all of the hurt and the pain in order to be where I am today, most definitely I would do it all again. I'm not here to convert, but I'm here to enlighten. And you don't have to walk in fear. That's a bully. And I refuse to be bullied by imaginary sky daddies or his fanatics. And no one should.
Bria, you're awesome, and I appreciate you so much. And you take care of yourself there in Michigan, America, okay?
I sure will, and I'll just let you know I'm carrying on your torch out here in Michigan, too.
All right, you take care of yourself, young lady.
I love you.
Wow. It's just amazing to hear the stories of real people. And it's funny because I would like all of my religious friends to hear some of these stories. You know, they think they know what it's like to have courage. They think they know what it's like to go out and live courageously. But in some circles, including mine, well, it's a whole lot easier just to go out and say, Jesus is Lord, because then you're accepted. It's when you say something contrary to that, well, that's when the courage comes into play. Let's talk to Lauren in Florida. Lauren, did I say your name right?
Yes, that's right.
Hi, Lauren. What's going on?
Hello. Well, actually, I was raised in a secular home, luckily. My dad is an atheist and my mom's agnostic, but they were both raised Jewish. And both of my grandmothers take their Judaism pretty seriously, especially my mom's mom. She goes to temple regularly. And she was over here visiting one day, and she said, "Oh, you should really go with me to temple one of these days." And I said, No, thanks though. And she said, "Oh no, it's not like that. It's really fun, and the rabbi is a cool, hip, young guy, and we all get up and sing and dance, and you'll have a blast." And I said, "Well, that sounds nice, but it's really not that I'm worried about being bored, that I don't want to go. It's just that I would feel out of place." She said, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "Well, Grandma, I'm an atheist." And, "What? How in the world did you become an atheist?" By using logic. And she just sort of was taken aback at that.
Do you think some of that's generational? I know that our grandparents come from a culture where, you know, it wasn't just church, it was Sunday go to meeting. You know, I mean, you get on your Sunday best and you go to church, and afterwards you go get a big buffet somewhere. And it's not just about, I don't think, about going to church. I mean, when I was in junior high, we went to a little Baptist church. And it's funny, my parents were divided. One was more Assembly of God, and the other one was more conservative, you know, former Lutheran, sort of a Baptist type. And they were a weird couple, you know, to see these two cultures mix. And because of that, I saw sort of a mix of cultures when I was growing up. We spent some time with the Assembly of God churches, some time with the Baptist churches, went to a Baptist school. And it's funny because when we were in this old-time Baptist church, they had all these people who were, you know, the median age was like 65. And for them, it really wasn't about going and hearing the word, getting all charged up. It was about tradition. It was about, you know, there's safety in tradition. Every day we go to church because that's what you do on Sunday mornings. And heaven forbid you change the color of the pews in the sanctuary, or you move the location of the podium, or you change the order of the service, because if you make any changes in there, now you've disrupted my thing. You know, I am comfortable. Do you think that that's part of the thing with older people? Maybe it's just more of a it's a regimen they've done their whole life, or do you think she really does believe?
No, she really is serious about it. She believes in a lot of crazy stuff, but she's one of those religious people that believes that it doesn't matter what your faith is in life, or if you have no faith, as long as you're a good person and you do good things, you'll go to heaven. So she assured me, she said, "Don't worry, you're gonna go to heaven anyway." And I said, "Oh, okay, thanks."
You just default in there, huh?
Yeah.
What do your friends say? What do your friends have to say about you not believing in God? It's got to come up.
Actually, a lot of my friends are also atheists and agnostic, but I do have a rather amusing story about a friend of mine in college. We were hanging out in school one day, and she said, "Oh my God, Lauren, do you know what atheists believe in?" She didn't know I was an atheist at the time. I said, "No, tell me," because I was really curious to hear what she thought. And she said, "I heard that they believe in this, like, invisible pink unicorn."
Oh, no, she totally misses the point.
Yes, and I said, no, honey, that's not right. And she's like, "No, I swear, that's what I heard." I said, "Look, I can tell you as a fact that, you know, being an atheist, I can tell you for a fact that that's not true. That's not what we believe." And she's like, "Oh, well, what do you believe?" I said, "Well, look, being an atheist simply means not believing in God, any God. And the pink unicorn thing is just a joke, like the flying spaghetti monster. It's to say, oh, okay, well, you believe in a giant man in the sky who created the first human from a pile of dirt. Well, okay, then why not believe in the invisible pink unicorn? It's just as ridiculous." And she goes, "Oh, well, I think the invisible pink unicorn is way more ridiculous than anything Christianity has to offer." And I was like, "Oh, how's that?" And she said the best thing ever. She goes, "If it's invisible, how do you know it's pink?"
That's beautiful. That's just...
And we didn't really hang out that much after that.
Did you ever see that video clip? So they were talking to Richard Dawkins, and they were saying, well, how can you prove that space aliens didn't create? And he's like, well, I can't prove it, you know. So, and he was making a larger point. You can't, let me back up. Disproving something doesn't prove something else. Is what he was trying to say. But what the creationists did is they said, Richard Dawkins believes space aliens created the universe. They totally ran with it, and they missed his larger point. And that happens all the time. It makes me crazy. Yeah. Lauren, you're awesome. Take care of yourself down there in Florida, okay?
Have a great weekend.
Let's go to Philadelphia. We're going to talk to John. John, hi. You're on The Thinking Atheist. Good morning.
Well, I just wanted to say that I'm 18 and I'm raised in a family that's like very religious, and they're all from Lebanon. Like, we're all Lebanese. And you know how like very religious everyone is over there, right?
You want to specify the religion just so we're all clear here?
Christian Orthodox. You know, my parents still don't know, but most of my cousins know. And the other day I told one of my cousins, they recently came from Lebanon, and he was like, what's wrong with you? There's something wrong with you. You're a retard. And he was like, how do you think we came? I'm like, I don't know how we came, but, you know, scientists have a lot of reasons why. And then he was like, oh, well, we had sex with apes. You think if I have a sex with an ape right now, the human's going to pop out? And I'm like, are you serious? It was very complicated. He was like very mad. All my other cousins took it fine. They didn't mind. And he was like going wild with this.
Why do you think they take it so personally about what you believe? You think it's because they are insecure about their own mindset?
Probably. I mean, you know what his mom does sometimes? Because his mom is the most religious in the whole family. She grabs her kids, she blasts the church music on the TV, and you know the incense they use in church when they burn it? She makes them hold a cross, but like she makes them stand in a line, and she makes them walk around in the house.
With incense in their hands?
With incense burning. And
that accomplishes what? I mean, what's it supposed to do?
To keep the devil out.
Well, you know, that incense smoke's pretty powerful stuff, man. You know,
yeah, I know.
They can walk in and go, "Jeez, it's ripe in here. I'm out, baby." I appreciate your call. I wish you the best in your circle, man. I appreciate you letting us know where you're at, okay?
Okay, thanks. See you.
I had an email from Aaron. By the way, our phone lines are wide open if you want to share your story about how you came out to your family as an atheist, how you sort of unveiled it to them and what the repercussions were, or if you want to and you haven't and you desperately really need to just get it off your chest, and but you're really at that point of critical mass, give me a call, because I think we want to hear about that. I mean, it's a human experience we all have participated in. We want to be able to relate. Aaron said, I was raised in a Mormon household where religion was pretty much the center of everything in my life. I had my whole life laid out for me from the time I was 4. I would get older after high school. I would go to some college, but right after that I would go on a mission, and then I would get home and finish college and get married and start a family. Then I would go get more education somewhere. I would do the same thing every day, and my reward would be spending time with my family. I started to realize at the age of 15 there were other ways of living outside of being Mormon. When I had friends who were religious but not Mormon, they were good people. About this time I started to question the existence of God, not in a real sense, although it was more of a question. And as I kept going through high school, I noticed things that didn't seem to fit, the most glaring which were inspired men giving talks at the most important religious events for Mormons where they would get facts glaringly wrong, as well as saying things I was just not comfortable with. Then I continued to study the Bible as well as the Book of Mormon. I started to notice things that made me think God wasn't someone I would want to side with, and if anything, I'd fight against him. The first time I brought this question to my father, he said, it isn't for me to understand at this time because I can't begin to grasp God's infinite ways and power of meaning with my finite brain. Aaron continues, I wasn't okay with that answer. At this point, I started to lean towards agnosticism because I couldn't prove or disprove God, so why bother thinking about it? As I continued to let go of my religious beliefs, I noticed even though life did seem a bit harsher, I was being me rather than who I thought I should be. As I kept doing this, I noticed I wasn't happier per se, but I was more comfortable with my life and how it was going. I found I did things that made me happier more often. I stopped not doing things because I was told not to, and I started not doing things because I thought they were unintelligent or would have a negative effect. When a close friend came out as an atheist, I felt I could start to be more open about my beliefs. Of course, I'm now attending Brigham Young. I'm 19. I know I seem just like a kid doing what's easiest, but being honest about not wanting to go on a mission was heartbreaking for my parents, and I'm very happy with my decision. But I haven't come out to them as a tooth fairy agnostic. I don't completely deny the existence of a potential God, but I do contend that he is highly unlikely and that I'm making the safe bet against his existence. I guess that's a good way to say it. I mean, you can't disprove a God. There's the big atheist-agnostic debate that goes on all the time. Are you an atheist or are you an agnostic? And part of me is like, in my mind, I think if God was real, he would have already, if he's omniscient and omnipotent and benevolent and loves us above everyone else, he would have already proven himself, period. You know, and so for me, that disproves his existence. There's no way. So for me, I'm an atheist. But I can see agnosticism coming in to the equation. I've got Levi Times on the line. Levi, hi. Welcome to the Thinking Atheist. What's up?
Hey, how are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Well, my family was actually really fundamentalist. Like, my dad actually went and studied. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Living Waters Ministries, but he studied under Ray Comfort there for one summer over there with my brother.
Ray Comfort?
Ray Comfort, yeah. They have a picture with him and Kirk Cameron posted on his Facebook, actually. Yeah, so it wasn't exactly easy coming out with my family. I came out just over a month ago, and I came out simultaneously as an atheist and as a homosexual at the same time, and my family was not very thrilled at the news, to say the very least.
How did you do it, may I ask? I mean, don't share anything you're not comfortable with, but I mean, did you sit him down in a living room and say, here's where I'm at? Did you write him a letter? Did you make a phone call? How did you do it?
Well, see, I'm actually studying abroad right now, so I couldn't really do it in person. And I think that's actually probably a good thing. So I did it in the most impersonal way I could think of, and that was a Facebook note. And, yeah, it was kind of personal and, like, really heartfelt note. I kind of put all of my, I still love you guys, and I still want to be part of the family and everything in there, you know, to kind of help them adjust with it. But yeah, it wasn't a personal thing at all. I didn't sit down with them, and they still expressed their discontentment.
I mean, are you on speaking terms? Are they praying for you? What's going on?
They are definitely praying for me, to say the least. They're like, I pretty much only speak to them on Facebook because of the distance. But every day they post these different kinds of anti-atheistic Bible verses and whatnot on their Facebook statuses, and it's pretty annoying. But I mean, I can live with it.
Right. I know what that's like. You know, every day starts with, it's going to be a beautiful day. Jesus is Lord. This is the day the Lord has made. And
right.
And you just sit back and kind of bite your tongue. You're like, do I say something or do I just let this one go? Is that the conversation you have?
And then they also post these things like, a fool says in his heart there is no God. And the other things like, what's the other one? The Bible verse that basically says that every person really believes in God. He's self-evident. And that they're denying it. That one was spread around quite a bit one day, and that really got me.
I once asked somebody, who's a Bible instructor once, about what about the people who never actually hear about God? You know, the Bible says that
right.
You know, we have to go out and spread the gospel and all this. What about the people who are, you know, these tribes off in the freaking Amazon, and they'll never see a missionary. I mean, are they just doomed? And
yeah,
he said,
really.
The Bible says that in creation and in conscience, the Lord will be revealed. And I'm like, essentially the Bible's saying that they're just going to show up and go out and look at the sky and go, oh, yeah, I get that.
Right, not only, yeah, I get that, but, Jesus Christ made that. Jesus Christ of Nazareth.
I'll bet a guy named Jesus Christ came to earth and died on a cross 2,000. I mean, I don't know how I feel that. I just get that vibe. Tell me, is your life better or worse now since you've come out? I mean, you can be honest. I'm sure it's had to have been difficult, but was a load lifted for you?
Oh, it was very, very relieving after I did it. It certainly hasn't been easy, I wouldn't say, but I don't know, it's really rewarding. That's the best way I can put it, really.
Well, I appreciate your story, and I'm I was kind of where you are, or I don't know when your moment of critical mass came, but mine was a couple of years ago. And I'll tell you, it's been a tough life. It'd be a lot easier to go out and wear a big T-shirt with a stupid Greek fish on it, and everybody would be a lot happier. But the truth is, in my gut, in my heart, in my mind, in my life, the word's content. I just feel more at peace, like I'm not living the facade, the charade anymore.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I've actually, I pretended to be a Christian to my family for half a year before I came out. And that was really, really hard sometimes, especially whenever they were specifically talking about Christianity and about stupid atheists and stuff around me. And I had to basically, yeah, I understand, that's great.
Well, you are not alone. There's a community of people who, by the thousands within the sound of your voice right now, who can relate to exactly what you've been going through, and they got your back. And Levi, I wish you all the best out in Japan on your studies. How long you got till you graduate?
I still have 2 more years.
So. 2 years in Japan, and then you get to come home, and then the real fun begins.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've actually only got a half a year left here, and then a year and a half back home.
One more thing before I let you go. Is your first name really Levi?
No, it's Kenneth.
I was going to say, what the irony is of hosting a website called The Thinking Atheist and having a biblical name? My first name is Seth.
Oh.
Seth is my name. You know what the irony is of that? It's like walking into a room and announcing to a party of people, I don't believe there is a God. Okay, right. What's your name? You say something like, Hezekiah. I'm taking the name back for atheism, baby. You know what I'm saying? Levi, take care of yourself. Thanks for the call, man.
Thank you, too.
Matt from Indiana. Matt, you are on The Thinking Atheist. Good morning.
And naturally, another biblical name.
We're at Matthew, Seth, Levi. We got it covered this morning. What's going on, man?
Yes. Hey, basically, I know a lot of your listeners will use Facebook as a tool for communication, even yourself. And I like watching a lot of the things that you're posting. And some of the things that get brought up are people that are so militant that they are disgraced by people that are not willing to come out, that stay as a closet atheist. But they don't seem to realize that it's harder to come out in some areas of the country because you wind up becoming an outcast to your family. Any friends you will lose a lot of times. You will lose a handful of those so-called friends. Your friends become an outcast. If you have children and somebody in the community finds out that you're an atheist, well, your children are no longer allowed to play with their children because they're considered a freak of nature or something. It really makes it difficult in some of the smaller communities in the Bible Belt in particular to allow these things. Not only that, but if you live in some communities or in some states, rather, that have the at-will law for employers, then basically they can fire you for whatever reason they want to. They can't necessarily fire you for religion purposes, but by golly, once they find out that you're an atheist, they can make sure that they can let you go for whatever reason they want to shortly thereafter. And that is wrong in so many ways, but it's justified because of that community that they are in.
Well, let's come back to Facebook for just a second. Facebook is kind of a touchy thing, and I'm really on the fence about how, on my personal page, which I don't give out to really anybody else other than family and immediate friends. I don't have a lot of people. Some people have 10,000 friends on their Facebook. I'm not that guy. I got a few. But I always try to decide in my mind how much am I going to make Facebook about just connecting, hey, this happened today and this happened today, or how much should I use it as a tool to try to counter the religious dogma that's coming my way every day? Because most of my family and friends who post start everything with praise God, my little nephew got an A on his test today. That's what they post. And my first knee-jerk is to respond, the reason little nephew got an A on his test is because he freaking studied for it the night before. That's why he got an A. How much should we be using Facebook, do you think, to have these conversations, or do you think it's futile?
I find it very tough because I find myself doing the same thing. One of my friends posted something along the lines of, if God came yesterday, where would you be today? And I basically, of course, I had to attack something like that because I just had to post all 200 some odd gods that I could figure out the name of that quickly. And said, okay, well, make sure you choose the right one. I mean, I'd hate to piss off a couple of the other ones by mistake.
Everybody's an atheist about every other god but their own. Is that the point?
Exactly. And one of the best comebacks that I had was immediately somebody said, well, there's only one God. The rest of these are all just gods. Where's your clarification there? Please explain that again.
On the anniversary of 9/11, I noticed that there was someone who's a friend of mine who posted something, and of course it's in almost all caps, and it says, "Today is the day we have to remember that we are a Christian nation, one nation under God." And I finally snapped. I mean, I've been sitting on my hands all day, and I finally just like, screw a whole bunch of this. So I finally comment, and I say, actually, no, Jefferson was an atheist. Washington, Benjamin Franklin, John Quincy Adams, they were all deists. They didn't necessarily adhere to the Christian God. They didn't add in God we trust to the money until the mid-1900s. It wasn't in the Pledge of Allegiance until after the Civil freaking War, and you should have seen the vitriol, the avalanche of, someone actually told me to stop drinking the Kool-Aid. And I'm like, did you realize that's a religious connotation?
Nice.
Drinking the Kool-Aid came from religious. Appreciate your call, Matt, and I wish you the very best in your circle. Thanks for participating today very, very much.
Thank you.
Back to the phones. Let's talk to... we got one from South Africa. Quentin, are you on the phone with me here?
Yes. Hi there. Not all that much, hey? I'm just enjoying a fantastic podcast. It's the first time I've actually been listening in as it's happening. I suppose I'd just share my own experience. I come from a rather puritanical, conservative Christian background on my mother's side. On my father's side also, my grandfather on my father's side was actually quite high up in the Church of Scientology. I believe he was OT7, somewhere around there. And he left for Denmark when my father was still very young. And he actually attempted to dissuade all he started almost a splinter group in Denmark, in the Scientology community in Denmark, to try and take away all of the dogmatic and the really sick part of Scientology that really took advantage of people. He just wanted to help people to spread this message that he had, and he didn't like the connotation that you had to pay for this enlightenment, And L. Ron Hubbard himself got wind of this, and he personally excommunicated him. He declared him a suppressive person. And that actually led to my grandfather committing suicide in a hotel somewhere in Denmark, which my father only found out about a couple of years ago. And it's a very traumatic experience for the entire family. It caused some major psychological issues. And I think it just goes to show how much psychological damage can... The waves of this event are still reverberating throughout my family. It's just amazing how absolutely damaging this kind of thing can be.
When religious cultures think that it's hooks into you, I mean, it's a significant event, and it takes a long time to extricate yourself, if you can. It's a very, very psychological process.
Thankfully, it was never that difficult for me. I'm still sort of the black sheep in the family, because I'm the only one who goes around really calling myself an atheist and being outspoken about it. And it's quite interesting because my father is still, he refers to himself as a pantheist now. He used to be in a very charismatic Christian denomination where they spoke in tongues and went crazy on stage and in front of the pulpit and everything. And he was very Christian for a long time. And when he actually discovered that it was all a lie, that it was all just spin, that it was all just a racket, he went into a really bad way. And now he's kind of in the position where he knows that there's something mysterious and mystical about the universe that we can't explain, and he's ascribing it to some kind of sky daddy sitting there somewhere, or an intelligence or an nature that we use on.
When Quentin, I'm losing your signal here. I do appreciate your call. Take care of yourself in South Africa. That's wonderful. I'm glad you participated in the program. It's funny how people will often do that. Whenever the evidence stacks up against a specific God, they say something that rings a little bit like this. They go, well, I'm not a religious person, but I am a spiritual person. I don't believe in God, but I'm a spiritual person. I don't know exactly what that's supposed to mean, You believe in ghosts? You believe in some weird ambient spirit that binds the universe together like the Force in Star Wars? I don't understand what that's supposed to mean. And I think, in my mind, it's a way of someone saying, well, I know it's all a bunch of crap. But, this is kind of what I'm keeping in my back pocket right now. Just in case there's a God out there, just in case there's an invisible deity holding everything together, we're all part of his little plan. I just want to make sure that I'm hedging my bets. Let's go back to, is it Manfred in Oklahoma? Manfred, did I say it right?
That's close enough, Manfred.
Manfred, my mistake, my apology. What's going on, Manfred?
Oh, not a whole lot. I was in your first In Your Own Words video as the Crampton Saint, and I just want to talk about my own little coming out as an atheist. I didn't have a whole lot of drama like a lot of people have had. I became an atheist when I was about 13. I made the mistake of the Bible. Up until that point in my life, I was bound and determined to be a televangelist when I grew up.
Really?
And
then you read the Bible.
I would have made old Jerry Falwell look like an atheist. I was really bad.
All right, now wait a minute. When was the first moment that you just picked up and read the Bible cover to cover? When was that? When did that happen? Were you a kid or an adult?
I was a kid. I was about 12. What had happened was I was attending these little junior seminary classes. I was going to a Baptist school in Chicago at the time. And there was a discussion about music and how evil music was, and if it wasn't a hymn out of the hymn book, it was satanic. Well, at that time, a friend of my parents was recording a Christian rock album, and I asked my pastor, it's like, well, what about Christian rock music? It's like, that's the devil disguising himself to corrupt young people. So I sat down, I broke out the Bible, and I started looking because, I had total faith in my pastor. It's like, he must be speaking the truth, but I want to see God's take on it. And I could find no evidence of that in the Bible. And so I read cover to cover, and I couldn't find anything. And what I did find was a monster.
They didn't teach us that stuff piecemeal when we were in Sunday school, did they?
No, they didn't. They really, in fact, they sugar-coated the story of Noah and all this other stuff, and they left out all the horror. And I look back at, my mother kept all my little artwork from my Sunday school classes that I had gone to. And I was looking at that, how sweet and innocent my stuff was, and I looked at it the way it really was, and I just see that disconnect there, and it makes me think of how many years I wasted in my life.
When I was a kid in junior high, I went to a Christian school, and they would tell us about the evils of not just, some people said contemporary Christian, the drum beat was some sort of a satanic thing, but they really flipped out over secular rock music, pop rock, and the current music of the day. And they went through this phase for several years where they started playing everything backwards. Do you remember that?
I remember that all too well.
Backward masking, they called it. So they would bring in these albums, and then they would play them backwards to show us that there were secret hidden messages in there. And the whole time, I'm freaking 7 years old. The whole time I'm thinking, you can play the Mormon Tabernacle Choir backwards, and the law of averages says some of those consonants and syllables and vowels are going to eventually somehow say Satan. It doesn't mean anything. And most of the albums they were playing to us actually were more offensive when you played them in the correct direction. And people look for evil everywhere. They see it everywhere, but I think it's only because they want to see it. And then they will ignore something that's truly evil, like what we're seeing in the Catholic Church right now, and I do believe it's evil to molest children. Thank you very much. People ignore so much that is truly evil because they're looking for these tiny little signs and wonders that really don't exist. They are figments of their imagination. Has it been pretty tough being an atheist in Oklahoma?
It has been very tough. I first came out as an atheist to the Army back in 91, and that was it. I never even told my family until about 2 years ago. but the Army was pretty accepting. I had a couple of drill sergeants push a Bible at me and say, here, you need this more, you need the soldier task manual. And that kind of, to this day, I'm still kind of burnt about that.
Your drill sergeant stuck a Bible in your face?
He took my soldier's manual of common tasks, my smart book, and said, you don't need this anymore, you need this. And he handed me a little New Testament Bible, and I was expected to have that with my uniform every day.
I guess you are a contradiction to the argument that there are no atheists in foxholes.
Until a few months ago, we had 5 atheists in my reserve unit. I'm still in the reserves, and they've all transferred onto other units, but that's the most I've seen in one place at a time, and we've got maybe 75 soldiers in the unit, so that's a pretty good chunk of us being atheists.
Manfred, I appreciate your service to this country and the military. It means a tremendous amount, I know, to a lot of people, including me. Thank you so much, sir.
And thank you for your video, sir.
You betcha. Take care of yourself, Manfred, and I'm glad to know we got some representation in the Midwest. Let's talk to Amber in Florida. Hi, Amber. You're on The Thinking Atheist. Thanks for waiting. What's up?
Hey, I just wanted to share my experience with my enlightenment. I grew up in a Baptist family, and, you know, it was always proper for, you know, we like to go to church, you know, and I never thought for myself why, you know.
Well, what changed for you?
Well, you know, I decided one day to pick up the Bible, and I decided to read it. And I talked to my mom, and she was, you know, the granddaughter of a Baptist preacher. And she always raised us to believe that, you know, we had the option to choose for ourselves. But the majority of my family was Christian. So she told me, pick up the Bible and read it. That is the greatest knowledge you will ever have. You know, if you do not question your beliefs, then you're as ignorant as the people who are trying to shove it down your throat. And so I picked it up and I started reading it, and I said, Mom, this doesn't make any sense. And she said, of course it doesn't. You know, Job went through all these different trials and whatever, and he never got the recognition from God. And, you know, I always thought that it was, you know, crazy. So when I finally told the majority of my family that I was atheist, they went crazy. They decided, you know, I should be going to church more often. And the church was the crazy part. Everybody was always dancing around and shaking maracas and chanting, oh, Lord, you are the one, and everything. And I asked the pastor one day, why can't we see God if he's really there? Why wouldn't he show us himself? And it was a turning point for myself. When I asked myself that question, I didn't want to know the answer. I just knew that there was no answer because he wasn't there.
How long did you go to church, Amber?
Well, let's see. I can remember my first church experience from when I was 4 years old, and then I stopped going to church when I was about 16.
I can understand, and this sounds odd to someone who's never experienced a really good church. I mean, if you've been to some Frozen Chosen experience somewhere, I can totally see you going, get the hell out of here. But, I mean, I in my mind, understand how someone would miss a connected church where, you know, I mean, think about it. I mean, let me paint the picture for those who may not know what this is like. And I don't know if this was your experience, Amber, but you go to a church and you pull up and you're greeted at the door by people who are genuinely glad to see you. And they're not just putting it on. I mean, they're so glad to see you. Big hug, and everywhere you see your friends, your people that you socialize with, and some of them you work with, just people that you come together, you sing songs together, you smile together, and you are told every Sunday via the message that you are on a life mission together, that your life has purpose, your life has meaning, that you are an absolute loved and cherished child of God who will experience the ultimate joy of heaven for eternity. And, I mean, tell me that's not attractive to a lot of people, especially people seeking community. You know, it's attractive to people to want to belong.
Absolutely. And that was, you know, one of the hardest things I had to go through was, you know, separating myself from the church. Obviously, the people there loved me and they wanted the best for me, but I felt like the best for me wasn't in the church. You know, the best for me was gaining the knowledge I could have from not being in the church. It was brainwashing.
Did your friends leave you?
I had a lot of family that separated themselves from me after that. I never really had new friends. I've always been kind of an outcast, but, you know.
Amber, girl, you cannot live your life by yourself now. You know what I'm saying? You know, people need community. Look, I know there are some people who do better on their own than others, but I would encourage you, and I'm no psychologist, I'm just a guy, but I would encourage you, you know, don't spend your life ostracized from other people. You have a tremendous amount to offer, and this show has proved that there are literally thousands of people out there who have made the same choice that you have and have lived an honest life the way you have and are happy they did it. So let me encourage you, girl, that, you know, it may have been a tough road, but, you know, it doesn't mean it's not the right one, you know?
Right, thank you.
Amber, you take care of yourself down there in Florida, okay?
All right, thank you so much for your time.
You betcha. Thanks for calling, being part of the podcast. I love the fact that people can just share so transparently very personal stories because they feel that this is, I hate to say it's a safe place, but it's a safe place. Let's talk to Justin in Illinois. Justin, you're on The Thinking Atheist. Good morning.
Good morning. How's it going?
Excellent. What's up?
I just figured I'd call in and share my story. I like what you were saying in regards to the missing that community involvement. Every once in a while, probably every 3 months or so, I like to go to churches and hang out with some of my friends who go to churches just for that reminder of that kind of community and that involvement. I have a lot of friends who are strong Christians, and they accept me as an atheist because we've been friends for a long time, and a lot of times we'll tell each other that our friendship is more important than our religious or our spiritual beliefs. But
I'm glad you got friends who see the bigger picture. I mean, they came to a point where they thought our friendship is bigger than our disagreements.
Yeah, exactly. I've got a friend. One friend of mine actually completely altered his worldview in order so I could go to heaven. And his idea is when I get to heaven, the verse of some will make them by the skin of their teeth. That I'll be able to argue to God, hey, you know, you set me up to want this specific amount of evidence. You were unwilling to provide that evidence. Therefore, I was completely justified in not believing in you. And God will go, hey, yeah, that's a great argument. Come on in.
I doubt the fundamentalist will agree with your tack, but I totally understand. God creates a reasoning, thinking, curious creature and then decides to make himself impossible to understand, and we're the problem. And it's totally bogus. I get that.
Yeah.
Are you happy you did it?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, several years ago, I really started. Basically, I grew up in the church. I grew up in Bible Belt, Ohio. I remember when I was going to high school, our science teacher said to our class before he starts the section on evolution, he says, listen, I know a lot of you guys don't agree with this, but the state requires me to teach it. I mean, that's the kind of world I kind of grew up in. I grew up in a family I had 7 other siblings. We all went to church. That's what we did every single Sunday, Wednesdays. I remember waking up early in the morning on Sunday mornings to go to church with my grandmother to help her make coffee for her class. And my grandmother grew up in New York. She was born in 1918, and I think it was the 40s, she was a pastor of a church. I mean, religion has been part of my family for all my life. And out of the 8 kids, I'm the only one who became an atheist. All the rest are still Christians. You know, you're really talking about the whole coming out story. My coming out story was not that amazing. I mean, I was talking with my brother on the phone, and I told him, you know, I've become an atheist. I've realized some things. I've been a skeptic most of my life. Now I've applied it to my own Christianity, and I found it lacking. In the end, I've told my family, and my family, we've kind of accepted it. We've gotten to the point, Matt Dillahunty says in The Atheist Experience a lot, where they just don't talk about it, and a lot of times that's where we are in my family. We don't talk about it. Sometimes it comes to head, sometimes we have our arguments and everything, but in general, it's the same kind of idea. We're family first, we love each other, what we believe is secondary.
I like that very much. I wish more people took that tack. You know, I mean, I can respect someone disagreeing with me, but as long as they disagree without proselytizing and sticking it in my face and Facebooking me every day with it and, you know, throwing the sides out. And I remember once we had a meal at a restaurant. My father was there, who knows, of course, I'm an atheist, and he looked at me point blank, eye to eye, and said, we're going to pray for this meal. like he just won a victory. You know, I'm going to show this kid. We're going to freaking pray for this meal. And the whole time I'm like, go ahead, knock yourself out. I mean, I'm not going to be praying anybody. I'll just chill here and respect the, you know, you guys do your thing. But in his mind, he had to make the point, you know. And I think if most people agreed to disagree and would listen to each other, we'd certainly go a lot further. I got 2 more calls I want to get to, but I sure appreciate you, Justin. Take care of yourself in Illinois, okay?
Thanks.
I've got a few minutes left. Let's see if we can get to Terry in Arizona. Hi, Terry. You're on the Thinking Atheist. Good morning.
Hi, Seth. I'm 45. I've been, an atheist by definition for about 3 years. Was raised by strict Roman Catholic Italian parents from South Philadelphia. They're in their 70s now. I'm going to stay on topic because I don't want to get into the story of how I became to an atheism because it took 42 years. But I shed Catholicism real early on in my teens. And that was hard enough for my family to accept, that I wasn't going to be Catholic. I'm the only one who's not Catholic. And I stopped going to church as soon as I was stopped from being forced to. I was forced to go to church until I moved out of the house. So I got married and had children in my mid-20s, and I didn't baptize them, and that was a big deal also. Now, my reasoning now for not coming out as an atheist, my parents think I'm, spiritual but not religious. They think I believe in God, but I don't, go to church. And my cousins who are younger, I did come out to, and, religion isn't anything they really discussed before, and they don't really after either. So it's nothing we've ever discussed. Because I haven't brought it up, they haven't. They know I'm not religious. Now, the reason I don't tell my parents is they're super involved with their church. My mom taught religious school. She goes to church every day. My dad's involved with Knights of Columbus. He's always going to baptisms and confirmations and all. And my reasoning is they're so old, why bother making it worse for them? I mean, they said stuff like, we're not going to see you in heaven, and, anything that goes wrong in my life is because, the devil is in it, or, I'm not religious, and that kind of thing. But that's my reasoning, just they're old, why make it even worse?
So in your mind, you're not going to change their mind anyway. They're in their 70s, they're set in their ways, they're doing their thing. So all it can create is conflict. So in your mind, you're going to choose your battle and decide not to have the conversation with them. It's not that you're telling them that you're a believer. It's just that you're just not really having the dialogue, right? Is that what you're saying?
Not telling them you mean not telling them I'm a non-believer?
I mean, it's not like you're going and saying and playing the Jesus card and faking it. You're just not telling them.
No, yeah. Right. They
think,
from what they said, they think I believe in God, but I'm just not religious at all.
How's that working for you?
It's actually working good. I mean, there's that, with cognitive dissonance, I want to say something, but at the same time, I know from the few conversations I've had that ended, and I'm going to pray for you, you're just a skeptic, or they get really angry. I just figure, why keep pursuing it? Why keep, And how it's working for me is I want to come out fully to them and to everybody. I feel kind of like I have to segregate my family's Facebook from my friends. But I just don't see convincing anybody, and it's just estranging us even more, and they're the only family I have. You know what I mean?
Well, you're a counter to the argument that atheists have no feelings. You obviously care about hurting the hearts of your family and about maintaining the relationship, and you've decided that, they're in their 70s, and you're just going to play that kind of close to the chest, and at the same time, you're not lying to them. I mean, I can go there. I can see that, and I wish you the very best, And honestly, I think that a good, fulfilled life doesn't mean an easy life. Sometimes the most fulfilling lives are the most difficult, the ones that have the challenges, the ones that where you're trotting uphill. An atheist life is not an easy life in these circles anyway, but it's certainly one worth living. And I wish you the best, Terry. Thanks for calling in this morning.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Let's do one more before we wrap up. By the way, thank you to everybody for sharing your stories. I love the fact that people are calling and so freely just sharing of their personal lives. It's a wonderful day. Let's talk to Samantha in New York. Good morning, Samantha. What's up?
Good morning. Today is Yom Kippur, and while my family is spending the day fasting and going to temple, I'm at home relaxing and eating. So isn't even great?
It's the little things in life that bring the biggest reward. Not having to get up on a Sunday morning for me. I remember when Mom and Dad would drag us out of bed for church, which is the first clue there's a problem. if you have to force someone to go, it's not like, I can't wait to go to church. It was like, oh, my God, I'm going to play sick. Can we watch? We would actually beg my parents, can we watch a preacher on television so we don't have to go?
Yeah,
they chill up.
I get crap from my grandma all the time. She's like, well, I've been fasting for Yom Kippur since I was 11 years old. Oh, okay, good for you, but I'm never going to do that. Kudos, though.
Do you think it's about is it about a feeling of, wow, I did it? And when they're, when someone does something like a fast or they participate in something, and do you think it's more about, at the end of the day, they can just sort of, I hate to say, puff up a little bit and say, well, we celebrated correctly, I mean, what do you think motivates people in your family to celebrate their faith?
Well, as far as I know, the whole point of Yom Kippur and fasting to atone for your sins is to get your name inscribed in the book of life. Apparently, God has this book, and at the beginning of every new year, he sits down and decides who's going to live and who's going to die that year. And if your name makes it in that book, then congratulations. You have at least another year to live. And if not, then sorry, but your time is up. So that's why they're doing it. And
kind of a fearful way to live your life, isn't it? Jeez.
Yeah. I just, I'm still alive, and I've never fasted, so it's working for me so far. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to starve myself all day to get on the good side of your little imaginary friend there.
Samantha, you sound like a happy lady. How long have you been an atheist? Your whole life, or did you change your thinking at some point?
Well, I'm 23, and I've been an atheist probably since I was 14 or 15.
That's a weird time. I mean, you're a teenager. Your parents have a lot of expectations. I mean, did you just decide one day, or was it a gradual deal?
I was never really sure that there was a God. I had always questioned it my whole life. But around the time of beginning high school, I sort of came to the conclusion that, I really don't think so. Yeah, it just doesn't seem to make sense to me. It's not logical, and there's no evidence to support it. I've never seen anything that proves it. So I just find it very hard to believe in an all-knowing and all-powerful God who's willing to let so many people suffer and die every day. And that's really what decided it for me, just that I find that thought disturbing, that if there is a God...
his number one characteristic is non-participation, invisibility. I always say to someone when we talk about God, they always defend him by saying, well, God's not going to do everything. Satan has dominion over this earth, and God wants us to rely on him. And our weakness, he is strong. And the whole time I will stop them and say, so what you're saying is that you believe in a God who does nothing godlike. And, of course, they equivocate and go on. But that's my thing. God, if we're the most precious things in the universe to God, and the tsunami hits, I mean, the earthquake in Haiti, Dan Barker once said you can walk into a children's hospital and know that there is no God. And I believe exactly that. What kind of a compassionate, benevolent, involved God would just sit back, sit on his hands and go, wow, this is fun. Let's watch everybody chew each other to ribbons on the chaos machine, and I agree completely. And your life is a happy life, Samantha?
Oh, very. I love my life. I'm very happy. I think everything is great. I'm very happy.
Wonderful. Samantha, thank you for being a part of the show today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I thought all New Yorkers were supposed to be kind of brash, tough, thick-skinned people. She seems so sweet and happy. I find myself smiling when I'm talking to her. It brings me back to something that I posted on the Thinking Atheist website. If you go to thethinkingatheist.com, one of the things, the website I know is not a masterpiece. I was able to design the look and the layout because I wanted it to be palatable to the eye. I noticed that a lot of sites out there, a lot of websites are these text fests. They're tons of content, but there's no way to digest it. There's no way to drink it in visually. You just are overwhelmed and you give up. And I wanted the thinkingatheist.com to be something that pleases the eye that you can navigate easily. And I know it doesn't cover all the bases. I know it focuses mostly on Christianity because that is my background. I know there are holes in it. I know it's not a perfect website. I know. But I'm very proud of it in the fact that it's a reflection of sort of where my journey was, and apparently a lot of others. And there's a page on the website that I'm very, very proud of. It's very simple. It's very basic. But it just says what we believe. Because wherever I go, people say, well, you're an atheist. You don't believe in anything. You don't stand for anything. And I totally disagree with that. Not believing in God doesn't render me impotent in my mind, in my heart, in my belief system. I do have beliefs. And so what I put on the website was this. It says what we believe. I believe man does not require a God to be moral. I believe religion divides more than it unites. I believe it's untrue that atheists believe in nothing. I believe it does not take more faith to be an atheist. I believe religion is incompatible with science. And I don't think science and religion can jive. I think some people try to make that connection. I think you cannot take the religious dogma and these crazy, wild stories that bend the laws of physics and jive them with science. I believe Scripture is man-made and demonstrably false. I believe God did not create man in his image, but man created God's in his. And if you haven't had a chance to see that, I've actually got that on the back of a T-shirt because I believe it so much. And you can go to thethinkingatheist.com. Special thanks out to Chaotic Shelley, who is the best call screener on planet Earth. And she has been a wonderful part of The Thinking Atheist and indispensable to me. I'm just one guy, and yet she has managed to take so much of that load and to manage the chat room and to feed the callers in and to just be absolutely fantastic. Chaotic Shelley, I'd like to have you cloned when the technology exists. If you want to find out more about us, thethinkingatheist.com. And I just want to encourage you that if you've taken a hard stand, it doesn't mean it's not the right stand. It's not a good stand. It doesn't mean that you're not doing the right thing. So you're not alone out there. And I wish you all success and happiness and truth in your life. Have a great weekend.
Follow The Thinking Atheist on Facebook and Twitter. Watch dozens of original videos on The Thinking Atheist YouTube channel. And visit our website for resources, links, contact information, the editor's blog, and more. TheThinkingAtheist.com.